people. If you remember very well, so we are taking it back from my mother coming to my father's funeral. We are now in Namibia. We've said goodbye to my mother. She's left in Zambia. My father was a politician, which you will get to know in my future stories. So me and my brother, we were able to accompany my father's dead body back to be buried in Namibia. But my mother, at that point, she could not go back to Namibia because she would either get killed or something, because Namibia wasn't independent yet. Like I said, another video, you will understand why me and my older brother were able to enter Namibia with my father's dead body. Anyway, there we are. So 4 years later, Namibia is independent. What we call in Oshivambo, Agaluki. Ota Agaluka ko Namibia. This is the moment where the returnees, the people that were in exile, were coming back to Namibia now. So my mother was now one of those people. Me and my brother have been in Namibia for 4 years at this point, I think. And we are now kept in Ovambo land, hidden there, because there was another dramatic story that you get to know about me. I'm full of stories. You guys have to give it to me. Yes, yeah. Rewind back, Monica, relax. Breathe in, breathe out. Let me go back to the chapter. Very serious chapter. You see, I don't like pain. I hate taking back into pain. This is why I think I'm not the only one. This is why we don't like to address the real issues in our lives. I don't like to go back to the past life. I tend to play around either with musically or do a movie or something about it, because I don't want to face my real pains. But with you guys and me, we are going to face these issues together, because I'm not the only one that's fucked up, guys. We've all gone through so much pain. And if there's anyone there that just has their life perfect, I wish I could be you. Me, I've gone through things. And I want to live in a world where we can share this thing, where we can be transparent and discuss this thing the way they happened. So when my mother came back to Namibia, me and my brother had buried our father a long time ago, 34 years ago. We are now kept in Ovambo land. We are living the Vambo life. When we came back to Namibia, me and my brother, you guys will not understand. We actually didn't speak Oshivambo. We did not speak any native language when we came back to Namibia. The only thing that we knew was when my father says, Dina, and I knew how to say Dad. Those were the only two words. But because we spoke Zambian. When my father was studying back in Zambia, he studied in Ndora. So we spoke Vemba, which is the Zambian language. Me and my brother spoke Vemba. We spoke Zambian to each other. So whenever I speak to my cousins today, when they met us, when we came back, they make fun of us speaking Zambian, whatever. So for us to come into Namibia in a village where we spoke no any other language in Namibia but just Zambian, we were now dropped in Onaena Ondonga. So we were able to pick up the deep Ndonga. That's why Shate Popinangwe, Utepo Bimoshi Ndonga. Ndonga Emweni. Da Mudiwo. Wene weni. You understand? Digging deep here, this channel. We are not here to embarrass our parents. We are not here to embarrass our aunts or whoever that came into our life. We are here to discuss the real life stories, the things that nobody discusses. The communities that we come from. So, because I'm the owner of this channel, there is no way I'm expecting everybody else to expose those stories without me dealing with my own issues. So here I come. My mother comes back to Namibia. You know those moments, uvite kucha, agaluki oyeya. You know the returnees from Namibia coming from Exile. Anyone else watching what is Exile? I don't really want to go there. It's a long story. People are coming back from Namibia that way in the refugee camps. Namibia is becoming independent. My mother has now suddenly come back. She is in Windhoek. We've heard, me and my brother were in the village. We've heard my mother is back. She's in Windhoek. 1 month, 2 months, 2, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 1 year. This woman, that the first time I saw her, it's when she was in an abusive relationship. The second time I've ever met this woman was when my father dies. The third time I hear about her in my life. She is in Windhoek. I am in Novemberland. She's still not visiting me and my brother. At this point, I don't know where my younger sister and my younger brother are. I know they're with their father. But I'm not going to go there. Because you know why I'm not going there? It's not my story. Right now here, we are focusing on me, my story. I don't know if they want to discuss their stories. When they're ready, perhaps. Brother, sister, brother. 2 brothers, 1 sister. Perhaps one day we can sit down and we can discuss about these things. But today, one woman's story about my mother. My people, welcome back. I always want to rewind back to the beginning where I say, as much as I've got sisters and brother and everybody, this is not your story. Unfortunately, it involves our mother, who is my mother and your mother. But in this case, right now, my mother, my story, and I'm bringing this story to the world. Sorry, please forgive me. And I want to speak about, I want to tell this story the way it is, because in our culture, we want to cover up shit. We want to go around the corners. We want to beat around the bush. This is not the channel for this shit. This is real. This is the modern world. And we are fucking giving it. Okay? We are doing it. We are here to talk about real life the way it is. My mother, who was in an abusive relationship, exposed me, the daughter, to this fucking hardcore world of her being in an abusive relationship, which affected me. And I'm giving it to you the way it is. Okay. So now, I don't know if you remember where we were. Now we are in Namibia. My mother suddenly comes back to Namibia. She is in Namibia and she comes back to Namibia. I'm hearing about everybody else's mother. They're in Namibia. They're the returnees. And my mother is still not visiting us. I'm watching the villages around us. The next house. Oh, their brother, the firstborn came back and they picked him up at the roadside or whatever you want to call that shit. I didn't care about it. I just wanted to see my mother. She was not there to be seen. Remember, the first time I saw my mother in her abusive relationship at my mother's funeral, perhaps I just wanted to see my mother. Yeah, I just wanted to see my mother. If you had a mother, perhaps you would want to see your mother. She was nowhere to be found. Akalukia ehemo mkunda wetu. Ashinda etu. Tale simonyo kwe hapo. Weke ntaraku kapale. Me serimo kwe ya. Weke ntaraku kapale. When was I ever gonna hear my mother? She's come. No. Everyone in the village, their mother came. The grandmothers, the villagers, their son, their daughters, they came. And I was very happy. A moment like that could happen where that was a moment, it was happiness after happiness after happiness in the village. You don't understand if you could live in a moment where just every house there's happiness going on. I was thinking, I just want to see my mother. Unfortunately, it wasn't only about me. My grandmother gave birth to 9 kids. Each and every one of them came back. Except for the one that, one of my uncle died in exile. But every one of them came back. The last one to ever come back was my mother. So, you now have this situation where we were the first kids, me and my brother, we were the first kid to ever, when I mean ever, never, ever, anyone that was ever born out of Namibia and landed in Namibia. Not English. How the fuck do I describe this shit? Rewind back. To ever be a mother, I'm now sitting in my grandmother's seat. To ever have a child that you give birth to, and for their kids to be the first people to ever land in Namibia from exile. And then for you to be the last person to ever turn up. Anyway, me, I don't like to drool on the bedside. Unless it's really bad, and it was bad. But let's pretend it was good. Hey! Chaka Zulu. Alright, now you understand. I don't know if you pick up. Now, my mother is back in Namibia. And I've been living in the village. I've been hearing my mother is back in Namibia. Every day, every second, or should I start with every hour and every second, I'm just hoping my mother can walk in the village house. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, 9 months, 12 months. It's a year. I know she is in Namibia now. Namibia is independent now. She is in Namibia because all my uncles that have gone, that were in exile, that went to exile 30 years before she went. My aunties, they're back. I know she's in Windhoek. This woman that I wish to love, that I would like to know. She's nowhere to be found. And Out of nowhere, I hear, oh, your mother's son has passed away. I'm thinking, my little brother. My little brother has passed away. This is what I thought. I thought my little brother has passed away. Because I don't associate my mother with any other man, except for my abusive stepfather. Somewhere, somehow, I don't know where I come to snap out of this fantasy world, or what I thought what it was. It wasn't my little brother that I knew, or my little brother that my mother gave birth to the last time I saw her. The second time I will ever meet my mother in my life. You remember? The first time was in the abusive relationship. I'm like 5 years old. The second time, it's at my father's funeral. I think at this point I'm 7 years old. The third time, I looked forward to seeing this woman every month that clicked, because the whole village, everybody was coming back. She never turned up. The third time I would ever meet her, it was a little coffin of a little dead baby entering my grandmother's house, because that was the house where I grew up. That was the house where where my mother was born. That was the house where my mother did not want to come back to the village. This was a moment, it was a funeral. This funeral was a funeral of my mother's child. This baby was the baby. I don't know if you understand the story that I told you. This baby was the baby born from the Ugandan man. The man that I met at my father's funeral, that was married to my mother. I couldn't ask where was my stepfather at my mother's funeral, but this was the baby that was born from my mother and the Ugandan man. She now came back to the village after all this long time that I was longing to meet my mother. But the only time I was going to meet my mother was at my mother's son's funeral. So, little, you can imagine this. I don't even know how to put this picture. You've not seen your mother probably in 7 years. And a little baby coffin walks in this village house. It walks in with 4 men holding a little coffin. And this woman crying. As I can imagine a mother losing their child. That was my mother. This was the third time I was ever gonna meet my mother. She's walking in my grandmother's house, because my grandfather died a very long time ago. He's completely out of the picture. My grandmother at this point has never seen her daughter, probably in 30 years' time, because she was in exile. She left Namibia a long time ago. Me as a young woman that has been wanting to see my mother, my father died in Zambia. My mother escorted me to take my father's dead body to Namibia, and I longed to see my mother. She worked in Namibia. I don't know why she chose not to come and see me and my brother. For the first time, before she walked in with her son, that's late. At this point, I knew that she was no longer with my abusive stepfather. A little did I know that the relationship between me and my mother, was going to be, every moment was going to be very painful. Every moment was going to draw every emotion out of me. So she walked in with her son in the white coffin. If I can remember the coffin. The baby was called Mutoigo. If you're from Uganda, I think you understand what Mutoigo means. The first time I meet my mother, the third time, it's a woman that is in pain. Because as you can understand, any woman that's losing their little child, you would be in pain losing your child. She walks in, it's a funeral. Of course, she's not going to acknowledge me and my brother. Would you acknowledge your alive kids when your child is dead? No, you wouldn't do this. Me as a mother, losing my child, no good. You can understand that. It's a woman. The second time I meet my mother, she's a woman that is so much in pain, grieving her little baby. Me, I'm a young girl meeting my mother, and I'm grieving a mother that does not want me. Because you remember the first time I told you, the first time I met my mother at my father's funeral, as a little bit young adult, I said, fuck her. The second time, she's in pain, what would I say? Like, lovely mother, you're crying about your little baby dead baby. Ooh. I just don't understand, because I'm even mixing up the words, because they are going down in a way that so I'm meeting a woman. I'm not basically I'm not meeting my mother. I'm meeting a woman that is in pain because her son has passed away. And this is the mother that I've been waiting to meet for a very long time ago. She doesn't see me. She doesn't see my brother. She doesn't see anyone else. And fully I can understand that. Would you? When you just lost a child. And it was what it was. For the second time I said again, fuck you, bitch. You don't see me. Now I fully understand you. It was what it was. Where I come from, we don't discuss these things. I could not take what I was feeling. Take it and discuss this with my aunt, with my grandmother, with my uncle, or with anybody else. I fully understood what it was. It goes that way. And my little brother was buried. I don't know what happened between my mother and the Ugandan man. I could not ask, because where I come from, you don't ask those questions. And I then realized my father is dead. He was my mother and my father. This woman that's supposed to be my mother, she is just a woman that popped me out. She's just a woman that gave birth to me. Whatever that went on in her life, that's not my business. At that moment, my business was me. What was I going to do with me? Because this is a woman that has her own issues. Here I am now, I have to take my life on. She went back to Windhoek. I don't ever remember after the funeral whether she hugged me or say, or Dina, what it is that they call me in the village, Dina. I missed you, I haven't seen you in a long time. My brother who was in a car accident, whether she said, what happened to you? I don't remember any of those things. But who am I to judge? Like I always say, listen, this channel is not a judgment channel. This is a channel where we are trying to discover ourselves and understand why are we the way we are? What have we gone through? Why are we who we are? My mother must have gone through shit to be the woman she was. The fact that she did not care that she was in an abusive relationship. Like I said, this story is about me. She exposed me to this relationship that she was with this doctor man that was the father of my sister and my brother. This relationship that she was in turned out to have been the biggest disaster that has happened to my life. Because of this relationship that she exposed me to, until today, I suffer from anxiety. I suffer from panic attacks. I went on to repeat the most I'm going to breathe again and bring it up. Because it's very hard for me to say these things because we don't discuss these things. Please forgive me. Because of what my mother exposed me to. The relationship that my mother entered me into as a young little girl. Has made me to become the woman that I am today. Because of my mother's relationship, I would now become the woman that I am today. I ended up choosing almost the same characters of the women, of the men that my mother chose. I want to repeat that again to make sure I did not make any mistake. Because of the men, the abusive men that my mother chose and what I was exposed to as a young little girl from 5 years old. And I've chosen not to dig down into the relationship that my mother had when I was a teenager because I want to give her that respect. May she rest in peace. I ended up repeating her mistakes. Probably 60% of her mistakes. I think the reason why I ended up repeating those mistakes is the fact that I come from a culture where we do not discuss I wanna put it very, very well as a Vambo girl. Because I come from Namibia, and Namibia is just not a country that has one tribe. It's a country that has many, many tribes. And I particularly come from a tribe that's called the Bambus. And that tribe is a tribe that is, of all the other tribes, I must say it's the tribe that just buries everything. Because I think it's seen as a tribe that is supposed to be classy. Compared to all the other tribes, they see themselves as classy. So they don't discuss anything that is supposed to be taboo, that is supposed to be explosive, perhaps. But hey, here I am, a Bamboo girl. I refuse to bury those things because those things haunt me. And I don't have a daughter, nor will I have a daughter because I'm at the end of my eggs. My eggs are dead now. And we don't talk about what goes on in our tribe. Women in the Bamboo tribes come from a culture that they are brought up in a way where they put a man first. So, Bamboo women are brought up in a culture where I don't know how they are brought up today, but I'm judging from how my mother was brought up, I think. I'm thinking, because I refuse to follow that shit. And yes, I call it shit. Forgive me for that, it is shit. My mother was brought up in a way, I think, where she's meant to... Let's take it from there. Basically, I'm from a tribe within Namibia that other tribes sees Bambus as the low class, and Bambus see themselves as the high class. Meaning, they don't speak about nothing. My tribe, they don't expose themselves to their feelings. Meaning, if you are a Bamboo girl that's brought up in a Bamboo culture, you are brought up to not speak about the abuse that you go through. Because the moment you talk about the abuse that you go through, you are a little bit like a Damara. I'm sorry. Doesn't mean I think Damaras are low or anything, but means you talk too much. A Damara woman is seen as someone that talks too much because a Damara woman, she's very expressive. If you are from somewhere else, you think, what's a Damara woman? It's just another woman from a different tribe in our culture. And this woman, she's very expressive. In fact, I don't think I should have been born as a Bamboo woman. There's nothing that's Bamboo about me. Because I am too loud, I'm too expressive, I'm too outspoken to be a Bamboo woman. If I could buy myself out of being a Bamboo woman, I would. But I'm sure that would happen in future. My mother did not come from that culture. She came from a culture where she was brought up to center men. Well, that just wasn't in the past. We still live in a culture where you find women that they just live their life. Their whole life is based on a man that they date. You find a woman, I'm not judging her, I am not judging this woman. You see me holding my fist. It's not because I'm judging this woman. It's just this woman is my mother. Is the woman that was brought up that her whole world. I live in London. The only woman that I can compare to a British woman is a woman that has watched too many cartoon movies that are based on Cinderella movies. Whatever movies that these girls have been watching, and love is so fantasized. And love is you meet your hero, whatever shit that they call it, and he comes and rescue you. And here you are. You are in this fantasy world that you live in. Your whole life is based on a man. And nothing stands between you and this man. So, whether your kids are drowning, whether you are being beaten up, whether you are being killed, as long as you are not dead, means you are alive because you have a man. And the question is, who are you without a man? Please. If I had a moment to ask my mother in those days, Mommy, who are you without Mountain Mbwaro, your husband? Who are you? Because I don't know who you are. I don't think you know who you are. Do you? Know who you are without a man? You have brought me in this life. You have exposed me to this abusive life that I'm going to become in the next chapter. Why do you, my mother? Why do you, my mommy? Why did you, my mother, my mommy, why did you not visit me when I was alone with my father? Why did you not visit me and my brother when he was in a car accident? Everything about you, my mother, everything about you, my mommy, was centered about a man. I don't know you. Everything about you, my mother, is about Mountain Mbwaro, your ex-husband. Who are you? Do you know who you are? Do you know anything about you? Do you feel you have any value without a man in your life? Are you able to stand alone with these kids that you've bared, that you've given birth to, in this world without a man? Because your life is about a man. Why did you continue to give birth to kids? My brother, my older brother, me, my younger sister, my younger brother, and the rest that I would not mention. Why did you continue to live your life for men? But the truth is, who am I to judge you? This is how you were brought up, to center men. Perhaps I should ask your mother. Perhaps I should ask your mother's mother. Perhaps I should ask your mother's mother's mother. It is what it is. All I know, I was brought up by a woman that neglected me and my siblings, and she continued on giving birth to kids and neglected us for a man. And is this the world that we should continue to live? That's the question, because remember, the classy bamboos, we see ourselves as the bamboos. Apparently we are the classiest of all other tribes in Namibia. So we don't discuss our pain. We don't discuss our failure. But we know the truth. We continue to do these things because what my mother did, I am doing. Lucky enough, I don't have daughters, but the pain that I've gone through and what I've done, as much as I don't have daughters, it's carrying on into my sons. And if I had daughters, they are continuing with these stories that my mother inherited from her mother, and her mother inherited from her mother. We are now into a world that we are awake. As you see, the world we came from, there were no lighting when you record. Now we have lighting when we record. That means we have moved on. The toxicity, the life that my mother has exposed me to, was about to wake up and live within me. Meaning, my mother's life wasn't about to end. It was going to continue in the short life that I lived with her. And that short life was, if you remember, I mentioned it clear that every time I met my mother, there was always dramatic. The next lifetime I would meet my mother after her little son that she buried. She would go off in Windhoek for 2 years. I would meet her again after 2 years of her being in Windhoek. She didn't live long after that. So, my mother lived a very short time in my life. She was very beautiful. She was very stylish. One thing about my mother, she said that she centered man. Because until today, we live in a world where we were brought up, we women. I don't want my channel to be just about women, but this story right now is about a woman to woman, my mother and me, and what I will become in future to my sons. My mother was brought up, I guess, or she was, a woman that centered men her whole life. She would live to die for a man. She would do anything for a man. If that meant to let other kids not exist because of a man, she did that. I don't know what it was about. To me, that's what it was. She did that. She centered a man. And the next time I will meet my mother after her son would be in her coffin, my mother, I would meet her again, her dead. After my mother buried her son, she would go off to Windhoek, because obviously she met us and she was in pain because she's lost her son. She moved on back to Windhoek. We remained in Novemberland, and whew, you guys, yeah. I'll end up moving to Windhoek because I was forced by my uncle to actually live with her. It's not something that she wanted, which is a story for another video. You get to understand that chapter. Please follow my story so you can understand me. And these stories are here for you to understand my mistakes, because I'm one of the few people that's gonna come out of Namibia to actually acknowledge their mistakes. And what I've gone through builds me to become who I will become. And I want you to study who I'll become. The bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That would become this creature that's called Diamond Monica Shafoli. And I'm giving it to you raw. And after his son's funeral, after my mother's son's funeral, my mother would be now suddenly forced to live with me for 3 years of her life. And she will kick me out of her place, be dumped back in Novemberland, and the next time I will be introduced to her is in her coffin, another funeral. I'm smiling, not because I'm happy, because it is real life stories. The first time I met my mother, or the first time I ever remember my mother, it's in an abusive relationship. The second time I meet my mother, it's her burying her son, her little baby. The last time I ever meet my mother, it's her funeral. That moment where I meet this woman that I've been battling with without her being physical there. I remember at the funeral telling myself, I don't know whether to say thank God you are dead. I can't say that. Death is dead. I felt nothing. I felt something. I don't know what this something was, because I don't ever remember meeting anybody that had a mother but didn't have a mother. I was one of those that had a mother, didn't have a mother. So when someone tells you your mother is dead, my mother died a long time ago, but suddenly she's dead. And I told myself, Dina, I remember in my village, my grandmother's house, my mother's funeral, going behind a tree, this very, very big tree. My mother's funeral, the day she was buried, I just left the house, the village house. I sat behind the tree and I told myself, this is it. I don't know why I said this is it, because it was it for a very long time ago. This woman was never in my life. I sat behind them. Time for you to conquer the world. And I went out there and I conquered the world. I'm still conquering the world. We are here. We are digging deep and we're still conquering the world. Until next time, Diamond Monica Shafoli reporting.